Okay, so this is the amplifier that I went with. I chose this one because it's got built-in Bluetooth, and I got four 6.5-inch speakers and an 8 gauge amp wiring kit. And I got this old ice chest that I'm planning on using. And I'm just testing the speakers here. The amp came with this wired controller, which is nice. And I'm thinking I want a little bit more bass, so I ended up getting some 6x9s to go with the 6.5s, and I'm testing that out and it's sounding really nice. So I'll go with two 6x9s and two 6.5s. And so I got the templates laid out here on the ice chest, and I'm just using a roto zip to cut the holes and popping the plastic off, not too hard, using this pry bar to get the foam out, which is also not too hard but takes a little bit more time. So just gotta work this for a while, and eventually it's time to get the speakers in. So there's a lot of bulge from the 6x9s, and since I didn't want to cut the inside of the ice chest, I'm using a heat gun here with a ratchet strap to apply pressure, and this is working pretty nicely. The 6.5s were a lot more shallow, so they went in easy, but these 6x9s have a lot of bulge to them, so just got to work this for a while, but eventually it became nice and flush. So got that looking good. And now I'm making a hole for the amp. I'm going to mount it on the outside here, and I'm pulling out some of the foam so that there's room for the wires. And I'm making a little spot for the controller right there. So now I got enough space for all these wires, and I got them pushed in there. And I'm just soldering them up here and putting some of the dielectric grease in the shrink tubing. Not too hard for this part. And after that, it's kind of downhill from here. Just screwing the speakers on. And for the amp controller here, got a double-sided sticky pad. And just testing out the sound, and it sounds great. I have a battery box here, so this ice chest will be used with an external battery, and it's extremely loud, and you can barely notice the bulge on the inside, still a functional ice chest. Okay, so now I'm building the second one, and I'm just going to use these two 6.5-inch speakers. I found this Bluetooth amplifier and lithium ion battery pack, which are much smaller, much more simple design. And I've cut the holes, removed the foam for the speakers, and I've made a spot here on the side for the amplifier, which fits perfectly in the handle. And now I'm just creating a channel here to connect those two and pull the wires through. And I am now working on the speakers and doing the same thing with the heat gun and the ratcheting strap to mold that plastic in a little bit and let the speakers be flush mounted. And that was really easy because these speakers are extremely shallow. And now I'm making a spot for the battery pack, which is a little bit different on this one because I'm going to be putting that battery pack in the wall, and it's going to be completely sealed up, so I leave it in the on position. And I am now soldering some wires here to extend the speakers far enough to reach the amplifier on the side. So after I do this, it's just a matter of pulling them through, connecting it to the amplifier here. And then one of the differences about this setup is the battery is going to be rechargeable, and it came with this charge port, which I just drilled a hole and stuck it in there, and now I can recharge it, and it's totally self-contained, and this one sounds great. Okay, and this is the third one that I'm building. I've got two 6x9 speakers left over, so I'm going to do that. And I got this ice chest, which has wheels and a handle. And so I've done the outlines here. I'm using the rotozip to cut and using the pry bar to remove the plastic and remove the foam. This one ended up being a lot more challenging because the surface is not as flat. It's got these curves in it, which made it very difficult to mount the speaker flush. And I had to apply a ton of heat and a ton of pressure at this point. and it ended up cracking the inner wall, which you can see here. And at this point, I was going to throw it away and start over, but I decided to try and fix the crack. So I used some aluminum tape on the inside, and I used the Dremel here to grind the crack down. And then I used my soldering iron here to heat it up and try to just melt it back together, which ended up working. After this step, it was totally sealed up, and I ended up using this zip tie as like additional plastic solder and putting some epoxy over it on both sides. And after that, the crack was good as new. So I continued with cutting a hole for the amplifier. I'm going to use the same amp and battery from the last one, and I'm going to put it in the side handle just like on the last one. And here I'm doing the same thing with the wire to create a channel that I can use to pull the speaker wires through. And then here I'm just drilling the hole for that rechargeable wire for the battery. And I'm just connecting the speaker wires to the amplifier here, getting it all wired up, testing it. Sounds great. And the 6x9s especially got the nice bass to it. And then I'm using the double-sided sticky pad for the amp mount. And then here I was desperately trying to seal up these sides, so I ended up using some spray and foam, which looked really bad, really messy. I painted it the same color as the ice chest. It still didn't look great. So I found some foam tape here, which I was able to wrap around, and that made it look a lot better. So from there, I thought I was good to go, and this is what it looks like. And I will have to make a separate video testing the sound out because I didn't want any copyright problems with this one, but that's pretty much it. Thank you.